All right, welcome everybody. This is an interagency briefing for folks that are dealing with PRISM and financial management system integration. And with us today we have John Doty. He's the president of DTC Global. That's the guy that's sitting there. How you doing, John?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great. And I'm Dave Lowe. I'm the briefing host. I'll be glad to help facilitate this. We want to welcome everybody. We got folks from USDA. We're going to be highlighting USDA. We have NIH has a new logo. I had no idea. So we got the new logo up there. Folks from the Aberdeen are here as well as Exum. I saw them coming in. So welcome everybody else from the Mint, GSA, VA, IRS, everybody that has come today. We appreciate you guys being here. As far as an agenda, we'll show you how the briefing controls work so that we can communicate back and forth. It'll be a good time, hopefully. We'll talk about some initiatives and regulations, things that are coming down on your head. We'll talk about an overview of the USDA PRISM integration, and that's why John is here, because he was responsible for much of that. Some of the key issues that agencies face in dealing with integrations of this type. We'll get to your questions and answers and get into some recommended action steps and procurement options so that you can get done what you need in working with your systems. As far as how this works, you have a bar, you'll see us in our video, but you also have the presentation that you can make bigger or smaller by dragging this little line. It might be on the bottom, might be on the top or left or right, but it'll get you there. And you can make us bigger like that, or you can make us disappear altogether. And you can open that panel so we can communicate with you directly. You'll see that we do have handouts, and those session handouts include OMB memoranda that kind of guide what we're doing with these integrations and dealing with PRISM and other integrations, and as well as the briefing presentation so you can take notes if you want to, and the DTC Global capabilities so that you can check them out as well. If you would like to communicate with us, you can raise your hand by clicking that little button right there. You can also chat a question to us, and we'll do our best to be able to answer those questions. And if you did come in on the phone, make sure you type in your audio pin so we can unmute you. And you can also email govsupport@dtcglobal.com. That will be available throughout the presentation at the bottom. You can email us at any time, and we'll make sure we get your information back to you that you need. A quick disclaimer: this is not affiliated or endorsed by USDA or any other agency. It's provided to you, the audience, for informational purposes only, and all participation in this briefing is voluntary, and engagement by you, government personnel, is not an indication or endorsement or commitment to purchase from any vendor, including DTC. So there we go. Got that out of the way.
Great.
So welcome, John. We really appreciate you being here. Tell us about DTC Global and where you guys are based and all the great stuff that you guys have been doing in the federal space.
Well, great to be here, Dave. Thank you.
You bet.
DTC Global is a systems integration firm. We are very focused on Oracle-based platform systems, PRISM, Oracle EBS, and SAP platforms. Established in 2005, headquartered in Tampa, Florida, offices up here in DC to service our government friends up here in the Washington metro area. Again, our specialist in Oracle EBS, PRISM, MQ WebSphere, which is a critical component of our interface builds, SAP and Appian. We're running a Schedule 70 right now, hoping for our 8A certification soon. That's pretty much us in a nutshell, sir.
Excellent. And we do hope to get that 8A certification. You got a lot of past performance, great past performance in the space, and we appreciate you being here to talk about PRISM and what that means. So along with you being here, we have a bunch of folks that are here. We want to figure out, why are you guys here? And is it because you're in contracting and you use PRISM as a system of record? Is it your agency has issues with PRISM, and if you have PRISM, you likely do have some issues, right, John?
That's correct.
And maybe you're exploring using PRISM as your system of record, or maybe you use a different system of record and need some help with there, or you just want to understand how DTC Global can help integrate your financial management system. Whatever that is great, and we will make sure that we get you what you need. And it looks like we have everybody voting Wow, we have an even number here. Take a look at this. 50%, they're contracting using a PRISM system of record. They have PRISM, looking for help, or they're exploring using PRISM. So great. We appreciate you guys responding to that. Thanks so much for the folks that are doing that. It helps us help you get to where you want to go. Some of the initiatives that you'll find that are included in this, in the handouts, is dealing with electronic invoicing. This is the reason why we have to do these integrations. And you can take a look at the details there, but you can take a look at M1519, M1722, dealing with the government efficiencies. That's the other place where you're dovetailing that, doing more with less. We hear a lot about that nowadays, being able to streamline your processes. And then also you have reinforcing the efficiencies directives that came out with M1728. I didn't give you subpart 4.5 because guess what? If you feel like reading that, you can read that on your own. But that's kind of why we're here, because of the initiatives that are coming down for electronic invoicing and having this be run all the way through from start to finish being electronic. And the objective is integrated acquisition systems, and that's why we're here. So tell us about the PRISM contracting writing system. You've been doing this for over 15 years, right, John?
16 plus years now.
So just a little bit of history there with PRISM. So tell us what PRISM is, if they're not familiar. Maybe they use it every day, but they don't really know what it does in the background. Tell us what it does. Well,
in general, the PRISM contract writing system allows the entire acquisition process from getting the contracts out, proposals out, bids and awards, all the way to award to, in our system, interface to commitment and obligation in the financial system. So it is a beginning and ending of the acquisition process for the government. USDA specifically, it is their start to finish program for all things contracts. And it's used throughout other federal agencies too. You have 64 federal agencies and sub-agencies that are using it, a bunch of federal users, right? Indeed. PRISM is about 85% of the market out there. They are pervasive. They are just about everywhere. Yeah. So, and one of the main reasons is because it is already compliant and it has full auditability, and that's what makes it easy to keep that system running as opposed to trying to replace it with something else. And as far as USDA, this is a place where you've worked for many, many years. And tell us about the specifics of that. You have 5,000 plus users, and they're all over the place, right? They are. They're in the continental U.S. There are 5,000 buyers across the country that are using the PRISM system to purchase goods and services for every agency in the Department of Agriculture. There are 17 agencies. We hover around 5,000, 5,500 users, depending on the workload. End of year, obviously, the user count goes up as they hire on folks to help get us through that buying period. But yeah, it's everything from nuts to bolts and helicopters and tanks and whatever the Department of Agriculture needs, they're procuring through the integrated system that we put together for the USDA. Yeah, and that includes PRISM, Oracle, EBS, and FMM. What is it? FMMI. What is FMMI? Yeah, that's the financial system of record for Department of Agriculture. That is their books. Everything through for obligation, financials, commitments, DOPs. All of that happens in FIMI. That is on an SAP platform. We integrated to that platform using IBM WebSphere, linking together the Oracle EBS for the procurement side. The contracts management side is handled by PRISM. We shoot all that information over for real-time commitments to the financial system, which then hits Treasury. Got it. And here was the issue. They needed their systems to talk together because they weren't talking properly, right? So, and you mentioned this, your integration was MQ WebSphere, right, to give you that real-time interface. So that was a solution that you laid out, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. If we need to get into some of the details, if folks want to talk about that, we'll get into that in just a minute. So tell us about what that included as far as the case study that we're reviewing right here. Yeah, the initial deployment of the acquisition system was PRISM and Oracle EBS with a batch process to the financial systems, and That allowed for a lot of errors or over allocations of funding. So the government wanted a real-time communication from their buying system to the financial system to ensure budgets were maintained, obligations were maintained, people weren't overspending or overbuying or underspending or making overlapping purchases in the same labor categories for purchasing. So we looked at how we could integrate. First, it was to a CICS system but down in New Orleans, and then as the government modernized their financial system, which was the FIMI project, we built an interface using MQ, XML, and Java to send transactions, built the response systems to send that information back to our buying system to let the buyer, the contracting officer know that they could actually move forward with that purchase in real time.
And that was not working before that, right? So
no.
And then we start talking about SAP, which is an enormous task, right? So what were some of the issues dealing with SAP?
Well, it's sometimes they're small things, but precision of decimals when you're buying dollars across multiple line items, and rounding errors were occurring to the point where we were having to maintain manually these deltas between the rounded errors and the actual cost of products and the actual obligations of products. And so we were starting to see issues there. Keeping those platform technologies in sync, keeping MQ talking to a separate system out of the PRISM system over to the SAP FIMI system. A lot of technology between those two, keeping all those three platforms in sync was a good challenge for us, and we met that, but it was an interesting challenge to meet.
It always is when you're trying to make those things work out together. So here's some other ones that you mentioned. This rounding errors, just the data format. So these are the types of things when you're doing an integration, you have to have these pieces solved. Otherwise, garbage in, garbage out, right?
Yes, sir. And in addition to this, I mean, one of the obvious challenges was bugs or known issues within the COTS platform itself. So whether SAP's financial packages had some known issues, how they were handling what we were sending them, whether PRISM has its own issues, which they do, and which we manage through. From those bigger challenges, keeping those technologies in sync is a challenge. And then when you get down to the actual numbers and figures, the data formatting, if SAP has a change in their formatting for a message for a financial transaction, we have to make modifications on our side. If they make changes to how their system is running, we have to also make sure we address and modify our systems to stay in sync with them, and vice versa. When we have issues specific to the contracting side of the house or the procurement side of the house, we have to ensure that SAP is aware of and ready for things like multiple CLINs and the number of CLINs per buy, et cetera, et cetera. And
you mentioned this impact on the folks. If you can't get these things to talk, they can't do the execution, right? That's
right. And for critical buys, time is everything. For agencies like the Forest Service, where they have to get buys in, they got to get them in quickly. Everybody has an urgent need. The system needs to be able to respond timely to those requirements. Otherwise, people are sitting and waiting for approval, for a budget approval out of the financial system used to take. I mean, it could take days before that actual commitment would come back. Now it's near real time.
And I think that's a key thing to talk about right now. You have all the fires out west and all the things that are happening with the Forest Service and the ability to turn those things around. When the systems don't work right, it can be a very big challenge for contracting folks. Like, there's a lot of contracting folks on this call. So the idea is how getting them so their systems actually work so they can get their job done, which is really critical in situations like the fires. Man, incredible challenge. So, and you've got the little glitches and things like that for sometimes they just don't work like the way they're supposed to. So let's find out what everybody's saying about their PRISM issues. What is your biggest PRISM issues? Is it speed? Is it interaction with FMS if you're using PRISM? Yeah, if you could let us know what you have an issue with, and you mentioned the messaging being an issue, being able to go back and forth and having that be accurate and on time. So yeah, let us know what you got, and we will make sure you get the right information. There you go. So take a look at this. The third and the third and the third. So we have 1 and a third.
Yeah, that's a good math there, Dave.
Obviously, they have more than one problem with it.
Maybe there's a glitch I need to come in and handle.
Go to webinar as a glitch. I think they can choose more than one answer, which is good. So there you have it. I appreciate that. Thanks so much, and we'll make sure we get the information there, and then we'll get to some questions. So if you have any questions, you can raise your hand. If you dialed in on the phone, we can unmute you. We'll create the dialogue. We have a few folks here. Let's see if I can find my glasses so I can actually read things. What is your view on the new P card rules? Do you know about the new P card rules? I know about that being $10,000 and things like that. Is there new reporting that's required for that?
I'm honestly not the best person to talk about the P cards. I know that we're making system adjustments to allow for it. If it helps the government buy more efficiently, that's fine. Our task is to make sure we include those buys in the proper reporting for FPDS, USA Spend, or whatever that be. But this is supposed to be an efficiency to allow for the purchases to happen even faster than they are now. We just got to make sure we capture the data on the back end and make sure we're reporting fully.
Got it. And we'll take a look at that, and we'll get that information to you if you'd like that. We have Oracle for our back end. Can you help with other integrations?
Yeah, Oracle is what we cut our teeth on. I've actually been in the Oracle arena. This company, we were very focused in the commercial side of the house since '83 in the Oracle arena. Yes, we're very qualified to support the Oracle back end.
Yep. And do you support cloud migration?
We do. We're doing a couple right now. In fact, the data center in which we're currently platformed at the National Finance Center is now moving to the NITSE cloud, and we are right in the middle of that migration, sir. This will be my third migration for the USDA. This one is the new NITSE cloud.
And that's, just take a second and talk about that, the migration process that you were involved in for the first and the second and now the third, because this is an interesting thing that you find. A lot of agencies have the same kind of practices and challenges that they, so tell us about the first one and then the second and now the third. What were incorporated into those migrations? Because that's a whole nother problem, right?
We could have a whole hour on that. Briefly, the very first data center migration was taking us out of an IBM pilot platform and moving us to the data center in Kansas City at NITSE. And that went relatively smoothly. The data set was incredibly small. We didn't have any of we just had a pilot environment. We took that and moved it. That was a pretty easy move. In fact, we physically lifted a machine and took it over to that data center floor and worked with it there. Second one was a challenge. When we moved out of NITSE, our 25 environments, I couldn't even tell you how many databases we were moving. When we moved to the National Finance Center, the production move, and there was no pipe to move this much data through easily. We tried looking at lease lines. We just didn't have the time to do it. We actually developed a process that we actually built over the new data center, and then we had plan A, which was to copy everything to a SCSI device and have a driver take it from St. Louis data center over to the Denver data center. But the other plan was we were just going to throw the databases into disaster mode and throw over logs from a checkpoint. Thankfully, that plan we had worked because the guy that took the SCSI device drove it, went home, took a nap, and didn't wake up in time, and he missed the go live. So
the guy went home. The guy went home and took a nap.
Yeah, well, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. You know, he lived in St. Louis. He figured he could go take a quick nap and fell asleep and didn't make it. So by the time he did show up, the device actually checkpointed with some errors. We had already come up though. We'd already managed to move the data across. It was a pretty creative idea to throw the database and the new data center into DR mode. Then we only had to apply logs to roll forward. But we know that product, that Oracle product, so well. That got us through that. That was interesting. Now, the new data center migration, and the folks are probably getting bored with this, but these data centers are now under the new direction of the government to presidential directive to consolidate data centers. We literally have equipment sitting next to each other in a data center in St. Louis. They can't talk to each other. And so we are running through all kinds of drills. We have 27 terabytes of data that we need to move from the old data center to the new data center, but they're literally feet away from each other. We're working diligently to figure out how we can cable that so we can just talk as opposed to sending 27 terabytes across USDA UT on the backbone, which is transferring at about 3.4 megabits per second. We figure a terabyte's going to take about 80 hours to transfer. It's not going to work too well for us.
It's not going to work.
Plan B again. There's always challenges, things you don't think of. It's the little things, but we're up for it. We've done it before. We'll make it.
I think you nailed it, and that is that anytime you have an issue, have a plan B, just in case. And I remember you telling me that story a few months ago about the guy falling asleep. That is just crazy. So anyhow, USDA has initiatives. Everybody's got initiatives for paperless contracting end-to-end, dealing with mostly moving to COTS as opposed to specialized systems. Still got to make these pieces talk together, and they have to have highly reliable messaging and zero transaction loss. And those are the things that you created. And for the folks that are up against the same thing, that's why you're here, because you're giving them best practices of how to make sure they get to where they want to go.
Yes,
any other insight on that integration for that system?
Well, it is zero transaction loss. In the 16 years that system's been running, there have been zero incidents of data loss. It's a redundant system built specifically to manage transactional data. It's not a high volume system as much as it's a redundant system, but it is very fast. On the paperless contracting, we're heavily engaged right now in Ag to look at management of the acquisition and contracting documents. We're working with some pilot agencies right now to look at that, using the PRISM product itself with the new release of PRISM 7.3 and its document management. Some agencies, Social Security one, has chosen not to do that. We've looked at outside repositories for paperless documents. We're also looking at the internal PRISM capability to go to paperless. But paperless is big, and the government's pushing hard on that. We're there. We're trying to lead that charge for USDA and a couple others right now.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate that. And for folks that are looking at this and have a PRISM requirement, let's talk about that. Do you expect a PRISM requirement immediately? Do you have an issue right this minute? Is it something that you think is coming in Q1 2019? That would be calendar year, since we're already smack in the middle of fiscal year 2019 Q1, Q2 2019, or you're not sure, and we'll make sure you get the information that you need, and we'll get those for you. So we'll give you another 5 seconds. You can do it. It's okay. 4, 3, 2, 1, and boom. There you go. So there's some folks have a different system integration issue. We'll make sure we get that information to you, and some are not sure when they have an issue with it, which is okay, which is why we're here, to make sure that you get what you need. Speaking of getting what you need, if you're interested in engaging or talking with folks at DTC Global, you can reach out to them. There's their information right there. You do have a schedule, GSA schedule. Is that a GSA schedule 70, I would assume?
It is schedule 70.
Right. And through partners, if you need to run through, as you mentioned, you're in the running to get your 8A. You've been working on that as a Hispanic-owned small business, so hopefully that comes through.
Yes, sir. Kept hoping for that. Simplified acquisitions available. The The threshold has now gone from, I think, 250 to 500. It's been increased. I may be wrong on that number.
It's 150 to 250, I do believe, but they're looking at increasing it even more.
Right.
And there's ways, obviously, contract mechanisms. If you guys have a need, there's contract mechanisms to be able to fulfill that, either through the large partners or through service disabled, even SOUP. So you're not on SOUP, but your partners are, which is good.
Yes,
so
sir.
that's a way to be able to do that. If you need to get in touch with DTC, you will get a recap email on Monday, and it'll include all the information that you have right now, with the handouts. If you didn't get a chance to download those, you can right now, or it will come in the recap email, and that'll include the briefing presentation as well as the memoranda from OMB. Capabilities, the Q&A for what we just talked about just now, and a link to the video if you want to watch it over and over and over again for its entertainment qualities. So, but we appreciate you guys being here, and we want to make sure that that you get what you need. So thanks for joining us. It was a brief briefing, and here's John's information and our information if you need to get in touch with us. But we do appreciate you being here and taking a listen to USDA's best practice for this. So, John, we really appreciate you. Thanks for coming.
Always my pleasure, sir. Thank you.
So we will we'll get the information out to everybody that asked for it. And other than that, you guys have a great rest of the week, and we will talk to you in the next briefing. Thanks, guys.